In today's video, I'll talk about what it's actually like to be an engineering student, given that, well, I'm a second year right now in TUT doing electrical engineering, and given that I'm actually in it, well, right now it's 23:47 on the 20th of, when is the 6th month? 20th of June. Yeah, the 20th of June. I just finished writing a test, no, an exam today, and then I think 2 days ago I had an exam which it was crazy, and then 2 days from now, which is Saturday, I have another test. So it's part of what it's like being an engineering student. So, but first thing off the top of my mind is that being an engineering student it's rough. Like it's not it's not if you want something soft. I actually wonder if you'd want something, but it's definitely not soft, man. It's just it's rough. No matter what background I come from, I went to a digital. I did digital, right? Where digital electronics. This is my book as well, right here. I was writing embedded yesterday. So this is my book, Digital Electronics, grade 10 to grade 12. I did I did some of the things of the test. So even with that background knowledge, it still gets tense. But also because of this background knowledge as well, that I'm able to do things like YouTube, like right now, podcasting on the side and newsletter before, all of that, which is why I'm able to do that. But it's still, even if I didn't do that, it'd still be hectic. So on the first part, engineering, it's very intense, and it's, well, okay, to break it down, engineering, right? It's in a weird, it's practical, but it's also theoretical. Like it's an interesting degree in a sense, given how engineering is an interesting degree because of how half of it is sort of theory based and then the other half is practical. I think another reason why is because I'm also at a University of Technology. So that makes it more practical based as well. But okay. But it's not like we're not doing like there's a lot of theory as well. So but then given we have the theory, we have the theory side, right? And then we have the practical side. Now the theory, it gets complicated. The practicals, suppose the ones we're not doing aren't too bad, but there is still that need to do them. So I think it's interesting in the sense of when you think of the sciences, or maybe your medicine or your BCom or your accounting, the more, I want to say, theory based, where you're writing down, you're thinking about the more theory based, there isn't as much practical based. Whereas with engineering, you have that, but then you also need to understand where you're applying it, how is this applied, and all of this. I think that's what makes engineering what it is. So that's the first part of engineering. But well, every engineering student has their own sort of thing with engineering. So honestly speaking, I was sort of, so here's how my week went this week to give you an idea of what my engineering experience was like. Okay, so before this week, right, what I had was I was planning a video on why. So generally, I'd be studying on the day before the test, which, well, I'm really deciding to stop because it's really not working for me. So I'd be pushed to ambition. I'd push to ambition on subworks, making subworks work, and that's what I'd be focused on. And then you push schoolwork to the last day, because you attend, you sort of understand. But the thing with engineering, it's not about the understanding; it's about the actual calculations. So even if you understand, you actually need to know how to calculate properly. And there are a lot of calculations, but that's beside the point. I suppose that is part of the point. Sorry. So that is part of the point. So that's one part of it. That is part of the point. But so I'd push it back because I understand the content. Not, well, for me, it's not too hard to understand the basic concept and what is it about. But there's a lot of calculations, there's a lot of theory involved. It becomes a lot. So when you're attending class and then you go home, attend class, go home, it's manageable because you can understand until you come 1 week, until it's like 1 week before you're looking at the work and you're like, ooh, this is way too much work. That happened with probability, which I was writing on Saturday last week. So I wrote last week Saturday. That was a test, and then an exam on Tuesday. Exam today was Thursday. Today Thursday, and then I have a test on Saturday, which is maths, and then I conversions on Tuesday and conversions on no, I embedded today on Thursday. So that's the basic structure of what I had, and studying on the last day I've seen isn't gonna cut it, but that's just what I've been doing. But once you attend class and you're like, I kind of understand these things, and then you sort of push it back, you push it back, you push it back, and then you see 1 week you're like, okay, maybe I need to study, especially with tests. Especially with tests. With tests is like that's where you actually study on the last day. Like with most, for me, that's when I actually have been studying on the last day. I'm trying to fix the system, but based on what I've been doing, studying on the last day was what I've been doing. For test, especially because you have this type of because you have this thing where what actually happens is we let's say you have so okay, so how many modules am I? I'm doing 6. I'm doing maths, I'm doing probability, I'm doing maths, probability, conversion systems, automation, engineering, software design, and embedded systems. So those are the 6 modules I am doing, right? Now, all of them have something and all of them have a test date. So what ended up being the system that I had was whatever's urgent. And wait, there's subworks as well, which I had as well. Subworks and all of that. So I'm trying to push content here, not to mention Power Project now run down. I'm trying to push content because that actually feels nice to do. So I'm trying to push content, which is nice to do, but on the side there's like school issue, sort of all of these 6 modules requiring attention. So you sort of push back, not to mention the practicals and the assignments and the reports. So you have all of that, you're trying to push back. So what ended up happening was that I ended up doing whatever's urgent. So if I have a report, this happened a lot with conversion actually, because so we attended practicals on Wednesday for conversions, and then I ended up doing them on Mondays. So Mondays was conversion reports, and then software was on Mondays. Software classes were on Monday and Tuesdays. So I attended on Monday and Tuesday. That was with software, and then the rest that just and here and there just attending classes, maths and probability. Studying on the last day, that's really been maths and probability. That's just been studying on the last day because you attend the class, you understand what the lecturer is saying. Maybe some lectures are a bit too slow. I feel like I could 2x them, and we're actually properly share the content. So sometimes you listen and then you get the concept, but then they repeat and repeat and repeat, make people understand, and it gets a bit slow. So that then I end up say 4 weeks later we have a test coming up, and I see we have all this work which once again you need to understand the calculations behind it and know each and every different calculation. So that's been with maths, and so that's how I ended up in a pushing to doing the last thing, to doing what's urgent. So whatever's urgent now. So if let's say I have a test on Monday for maths, then that's when I study the maths. Probability, that's when I study the probability. Software, that's when I do the software, and so on. Conversion report, that's when I do the conversion. So that was my thing. And I mean, that's how it's been. That's how it is. It's kind of there's no way to warm up to it. But then, okay, so how did I end up getting to this video? My reason for starting this video was yesterday. Okay, so here's actually what happened yesterday. So I wrote conversions on Tuesday, and studying for that was hectic. Like conversion, since I started, it has been rough. Like since I started, I never got ahead of it. Like conversions, which was something new for me. So conversion has been rough since the start. Like I was prepping, and it was the first time I actually went and slept and studied until like 6. Because generally I'd be studying. It's been getting there. So during this year, I'd be studying until maybe 4. It's been getting to 4. It's been getting to 5. But then this was the first time it actually went to 6, and I checked everything. And mind you, I tried studying it before. I tried studying it the week before. I just read the content, and then the day before is so like so we wrote on Tuesday. Um Saturday was probability. So Sunday I did a few things. I slept late on that day, and they kind of broke my phone as well. That happened sometime. My phone broke, and yeah, that added a bit of extra stress. But yeah, that's what happened Saturday. Onto that, so that's how I ended up sleeping. So conversions happen now. Conversions background on conversions was it's been intense like since the start. Now conversions as well. Conversions is sort of the I like to separate. So what I'm doing is electrical engineering. I like to separate electrical engineering into two categories. One being heavy current and the other being light current. Well, I suppose three, because what we had was from my high school I had power. We had power from my high school in the electrical field. We had power, and then we had electronics, and then we had digital electronics. So I did digital electronics, right? Now, power was the heavy current stuff, which I definitely do not like. I don't like it all, which is, well, why am I doing electrical engineering? But the heavy current stuff, I definitely do not like, but I've grown to I've grown to enjoy it with conversion, but before I did not like heavy current things. Now, then you have the light current, which is the electronics, which I thought I liked until I did electronics last year. Actually saw what it was actually about, because not because I didn't know what it was, because we did it. Okay, so what I did was in grade 11, we did, let's say, diode transistors, SCR. That's what I did in grade 11. That was your transitioning now to your op amps, logic gates, and things I also did in 11. So I thought that was part of electronics, whereas that's part of digital electronics. So what I actually end up liking, what I actually like, is the digital electronics part with your, what's in, and I wrote about this today, but your, what is it? Okay, your op amps is kind of electronics though. So you got your op amps, you got your logic gates, you got your comparators, what is it? You got your adders, things like that, your combinational logic circuits and sequential logic circuits and timers, microcontrollers, the programming part as well, which is why I think I also love software as well. That was actually what I realized that I actually end up liking. That's actually what I realized that I actually ended up liking as opposed to electronics. But that's broadly how I categorize it. Now, conversion systems is on the end of the heavy current. And I've constantly been putting time to it, and it's had many different alterations, many different changes. It's been annoying. It's been annoying. That's been conversions. So given that given that and I think I also wouldn't be able to make supplementary, because I think in TET to make supplementary 60 you need 60% to get supplementary. Now I got 56 as my predicate, right? Part of the predicate is because my magnetism was marked wrong because I didn't have any units, which is really annoying. So magnetism was, say, 30% on both the test we wrote, and apparently I got none of that right because there was no units, which is frustrating. But that was part of the stress that added to studying for conversions. And even if I knew I understood it, and I was doing through, sometimes when I was going through conversions, I was like, I sort of understand what I'm doing here, but I cannot. There's just this thing, this anxiety that I might not make it. So it was pushing more and pushing more and pushing more. So that was that bring me to the point that engineering would bring you'd make engineering would make you make something happen. Like it teaches you to make something happen. One way or another, you just have to make something happen. And I'd say I did. So engineering also teaches you to make something happen. I think that now. Um I ended up studying until like 6. Okay, but luckily I was writing at like 2. I was writing at 2, so I was able to sleep from like 6 to 4. And then this is coming. So that's partly why I could sleep at 6 and it wasn't too bad. But the main point is that through that I've seen that engineering could bring out it just it makes you resilient. It brings out a resilience because since second semester of last year, my first year, there was the electronics project, which was what actually made me start sleeping late, which is now, which is why right now it's 3 past 12. Is that the thing? It's 3 past 12, and I'm recording, and it seems normal because I'm used to sleeping late. That actually started with the electronics project, and also the electronics project as well. That taught me to also with the electronics project as well. It was just pushing through, making sure that it works. Whatever happens, doing whatever you could to make sure that you pass or that your thing works or that you understand or making sure that everything happens, whatever, doing whatever you can. So that was with electronics. That's where it started, and then we had many projects after that, doing whatever you could. So that's where, and that's also where I started now chipping, cleaning, cutting away on the project that I had because I had many projects then, way more than I have now. I wanted to do web design. I wanted to do I wanted to do a lot of projects. That's basically what I'm saying. I think I have maybe 8, 9 projects. Right now, maybe I have 3. So from then, I had 8, 9 projects, and that's when I started cutting away. That's when the cutting away started. Started slowly chipping away the projects, making sure that I'm focusing on only one project instead of thousands of them. So it's experiences like that, and then getting out of that, getting out of that, and then experiences like studying on the last day consistently, seeing that I need to change this, I need to change my setup, I need to change my program because it's not going to work. And then experiences like now the one on Tuesday, where Tuesday on the 18th, by the way, the one on Tuesday where I had to dig deep and just continue pushing until, sorry, continue pushing until I was actually confident that I could easily, easily get something, get over the line. And then it's experiences like that. And then once again, coming so after so I studied for conversions until like 6, and then later on it was so then I wrote from 2 to 5. Landed I'm actually writing the whole 3 hours because of now even in that paper there was 5 questions, right? Question 1 to question 5. Now question 1 was the magnetism. Now I did magnetism. I checked that question like 5 times before moving on to the next question. So it was finding the inductance. No, there were like 4 questions. So that's question 1, and then there were like 4 questions. And the first question you had to find the reluctance of something. Then from there find the flux. Now I checked my reluctance about 4 times before I moved on to the next one, and then the next one I checked it like 4 times. Like each and every answer in question 1, I checked 4 times for like maybe that took like 20 minutes, just checking 4 times. Second question came up, I did the same thing. I checked 4 times. Third question came up. I don't think I did like 3, 2, because I was really tired, and like I think 2 hours, maybe 1.5 hours had passed by then, and I could feel that I was starting. My mental energy was leaving, but I still pushed through, and that type of pushing through where you're just leaving everything on the paper, and whatever happens. It was that type of thing. And actually, I don't actually feel like that. I just left everything on the paper, and then that's just it. I just left everything on the paper, and then I moved on. Came back home. I was gonna watch the Euros, but it was Georgia and Turkey, and well, that didn't feel as entertaining as France. Was it France? Well, there was a game that played at 9 on the 18th. That game, oh, it was Portugal, and I think it was Czechia, but it was that game that I said maybe. So I came home 6. I ended up doing YouTube. I released vlogs and chills. I released I think on the podcast I released a few, and then I think on Subworks as well. I think I released the basketball video as well. I just ended up doing that, and then 9. That's when I watched the Portugal game. So it was moving from studying to the conversions paper to now doing the subworks. So my mental energy was done. By the time I went to sleep, so this was on the 18th. I was writing on the 20th embedded an exam. And then I couldn't do anything. But another note is that with embedded as well, we wrote a test from chapter 1 to 9 beforehand, and then the scope was chapter 1 to 9. So I didn't need to do much. But given that, so it wasn't as bad as conversions. So because with conversions there were 4 units, but all of them I needed to spend a lot of. All of them was like, on unit 1 I was perhaps 60-70%, because there was always these differences and things that come up in different ways. Unit 2 was a lot. Unit 2 from the scope we got was like 35, was like 32 to 40%, 45%. It was a lot. And let me just quickly check if I'm recording. Okay, seems I am. So unit 2, it was a lot. And on that one, open circuit, short circuit. Yeah, I was perhaps maybe 50, because I did reports. I did a lot of reports and many tests. That was just unit 2 focused. But even after doing that, I was maybe 50-60% sure. Unit 3, I was maybe 40-50%. And unit 4, I hadn't even started. So that was the basic mindset on conversions. And also, given how with conversions there were so many different permutations and changes and the ways they do things, that I had to make it. Studying, when I had to study, I had to make sure. That was my mindset going into it. I was embedded. I already did these things in grade 10 to 12, and then we did a test as well. So I wasn't as stressed. But yeah, that's the context behind it. So 18, you still forget a lot though, actually, sort of realized. Okay, but we'll get to that. So 18 was that match. So I watched the match after YouTubing, writing, and all of that. And then 18, so I watched the match, and then 19 hit. I think I woke up at 1 or 2 or 3 on that day. I went out to train in the yard, like 30 minutes. I woke up at 1. Was it 2? I woke up at 2, trained for like 30 minutes, and then took a shower. After that, I watched Croatia and Albania from 3 to 5. And then that's when I started studying, trying to study. Nothing got in. Like conversion did a lot to me. Like nothing was getting in at all. I started from 6, and then I ended up at 7. I went to research. I want to research cars, which cars are the best, which cars I could potentially buy later on to be my goal to buy, and things like that. And then I just did some things on the side, and then I decided to just go to sleep until 2, wake up at 2, and then study for like 2-3 hours. Ended up sleeping until 3. So I slept at 1 actually. Then I woke up at 3. Then from 3, I studied until maybe 6, 6:15, 6:30. and then went to sleep, woke up at around 10, went to the venue, and then I five, wrote until 5, came back home. From home, I think I watched while I was setting up. Well, my old phone broke, so I was setting up the new phone, which is this one, and then the one I'm recording with right now. So my old phone broke, so now I ended up setting up this one that I have right now. And then which match was playing now? And then I watched the match, Heroes match. Just forgot which match was playing. It was it no, oh, Spain and Italy. That's the match. That's the match I ended up watching, and then decided to record because I'd been thinking about it. So before, when I went to sleep, I was trying to sleep. The sun had been out by then. I think around 6:30. I was trying to sleep. Sun was out by then, and then in my mind, I was thinking I should make a video. And then I also thought about engineering is interesting in the sense that I actually picked to do engineering, and in some ways, that is fate. In some ways, it is destiny, or it was meant to be. It just felt that way. But before I get into that, I just wanted to say, I've noticed, so given that, I noticed while I was studying for embedded that the more things that I noticed that I'm starting to forget like things that I did long time ago. I suppose not a long time ago in that sense, but things like JK flip flops, 5-5 timers, things like that I did in grade 12. I noticed I started to forget them more, and made me. And I think maybe a few weeks before I was doing probability, I just got that sense that to learn these things I'd be forgetting some other things. So I noticed, as well as TET, I would say is different from other varsities as a first year when you're entering, in the sense that from what I think, because as a first year, the people around me. Okay, so well, firstly, getting into as a first year, I was 18 as opposed to being 19. So that was the first part of it. When it comes to age, that was the first part of it. But then most people there were maybe 20, 21, 22. That was the median age. So most people are that age, maybe 2-3 years older than me. That was the median age in TET. And then some older. So I've realized with some friends of mine that they tend to, sometimes they say when they're studying, like the mind, the school mind, the mind, the part of the mind that is focused on the schoolwork isn't as fresh, as trained anymore. Because that's when I started to realize that the older you get, that's when you start forgetting a lot more of the things you did before. So even these old things, which I think were, for me, subjects like maybe physics and chemistry that we were doing, which were based on the high school things that I did, weren't the same as people weren't having the same experiences as I did, because they had a lot more time between their high school and now doing somewhat related material. So that was one part given out engineering. That was one part I sort of started to understand. But anyway, back to what engineering is. So how did I actually pick? What did you think? How did I actually pick engineering? Given the way it's been interesting. But how did I actually get to the point of actually picking engineering? With that, we'd have to. So my interest in the 6 subjects so first year I did, my main subjects were engineering maths 1, was electrical circuits and electronic circuits. So those were the main subjects. For electronic circuits was closer to the things I did in high school, but it was kind of a bit boring. It was more touching on the surface things, which is understandable because you're just getting into the content. But I wasn't really interested into it. And then I used to say that I came into varsity to do embedded systems. That was the main thing, the main reason why I came into varsity. Because as you'll see in the, I don't have a title for that video yet, but it's that varsity isn't worthwhile. So that type of video, it's coming out soon. So, but as you'll see from that video, I didn't really, in my mind, I didn't really need to go to varsity. So part of that was I came to varsity as a hobby, which is what I said last year. Now things have, well, given that I'm trying to stop studying on the last day, I've had to, okay, you'll see the video, you'll understand. I'll explain it there. So that was with, so given all of that, I used to say that embedded was the reason why I came to do engineering, to varsity, because when it comes to my interests in the tech, I don't want to say the tech sphere because it's technically not the tech sphere. It's more, okay, in that part, I don't know what this part is called, but you have in the computer engineering, you have also the electrical engineering, and then you have the computer. So in the electrical engineering bracket, you have your digital part. Now, in your digital, in your microelectronics, no, I think that's the right word. Digital electronics. That's basically what I was doing. Anyway, so in your digital electronics field, what you've got is your, so you've got maybe your computer engineering, you've got your computer science, and then you've got your computer science, which is where the software comes in, and then you've got your embedded, which falls in like your computer engineering. So that was the field that I'm interested in. Now, when I was thinking about my choices, I was thinking of going to computer science because that's when I started learning how to program. Started learning how to program in, I think, officially in grade 11. That's when I officially started, but it was a side project, not as, we didn't do none of that in digital. Digital was more focused on the hardware side. Not that we worked with the theory of the hardware. That was more what digital was about. So when I was thinking, so initially in grade 10, grade 11, my choices were computer science. That's what I actually saw, like actually having interest in. And then I applied around April to a few universities. And then I thought around maybe June, July, after applying and getting a few provisional acceptances, that maybe computer engineering actually isn't bad. Because that's when we started, after doing, by that time we'd have done op-amps, we'd have done logic gates were done in grade 11. We had done op-amps, we had done, op-amps was the main thing that we had done. We'd done op-amps, I think adders was there, but adders are, we'd done sequential logic. You probably don't get what I mean, but it was sequential logic. That's what we had done. And then we touched a bit on, memory is easy, but we had done a few things, and that's when I actually saw what it was about. That this actual, now it was more actually, now it's actually doing the things. So actually seeing that this is what digital electronics was about, and not just touching on the basics, because that's what it felt like. We're just touching on the basics and just going down. Now it actually felt like I was at the actual deep core. Like, why do I was getting closer to why do computers work the way they do. So that's where I suppose electrical engineering. That's why I suppose then I decided computer engineering might not be too bad. Now, with my final marks, I ended up not getting in for computer engineering. I think the only places I applied for computer engineering was UP, UCT. UCT I didn't get in because of maths and physics. They needed an 80. I was more in the 70s bracket. UP, I was out by my April marks. The ones I applied with weren't, meeting the requirement. So with UP, I was out. And then my choices, and then I had CPUT with computer engineering, and then I had TUT with electrical engineering. And I think I had Free State as well with computer science, but then I ended up doing electrical engineering over computer science because back then AI was starting. This boom that you guys are hearing about, it was starting in 2022. So this boom that you guys are hearing about, the AI is everywhere, that was actually starting in 2022. I was following, and I was actually like seeing that. And also I was hearing that you could learn coding online, you have coding boot camps, you could get a job by doing side projects, you don't need to go to degree, you don't get a varsity, things like that. So I'm like, okay, to protect myself then it would be better to have the coding knowledge, because originally I'd be learning that on the side. And then I could do the electrical engineering. Then but I'd also have this electrical engineering skill. And even though I really want to say I hate heavy, but it's not that deep, I suppose. Not anymore. But even though I don't like even though I don't like heavy, I could go into it. That was my mindset then. But then I decided to, okay, let me just see what electrical engineering is about. Then I went into TUT, and my experience with it is more of social benefit than of academic benefit, which shows, well, kind of I went there for social benefit, because academics wise I wasn't really learning anything. That I could say was revolutionary, engaging, challenging. It was either things I'd done before, seen before, some way, somehow, different permutations. But what I have learned from doing that is that even though I had done my digital, seen some of the things, seen maybe physics, some parts are there. Even though I had done that, in engineering it's different, because now it's like you're stepping out into the real world, which you don't get in high school. In high school, it's sort of controlled, whereas in engineering, let me just pick up these cards before I continue. So in engineering, it's different. It's like being in the real world, in the sense that it feels more and more as I've been doing electronic circuits. Electrical circuits, it was a mess last year. Electronic circuits, and the more I've been doing electronic circuits, doing automation, doing mechanics. Mechanics was rough. Mechanics was rough. But the more I did mechanics, the more I did electronics, and also realizing now this year, more I did software, more I did conversion, more I did, what else did I do? Embedded as well. Now, when I started, it was like, when I started in varsity engineering, I was trying to learn I still had the mindset of having the guardrails on, especially with maths. engineering, especially with maths. I had this feeling of having guardrails on, where you still think the lecturer should do this, lecturer. So you had the guardrails of being taught, right? So you had those guardrails. Whereas in maths, an example that I can easily remember is that trigonometry, right? So when we did trigonometry, there's the sine cos tan that everyone knows about, which you do in high school, right? And then you know about so you do sine cos and tan, what they're actually about. And then but you also know about what's the opposite now? So you have sine cos and tan, and then you know about your cot, your secant, and your cosecant, right? No, that's cos. And cosec, yeah, cosecant. Okay. Your cosecant, your secant, and your cotangent. You know about them, right? You don't go into them, but you know about them. Now, what happened was in that week where he said where we touched on, he was just running. So the lecturer I had, he was just running through a lot of things, and then trigonometry was just on the back burner. Now it was on the back burner. Coming from high school, I only did sine, cos, and tan, right? Properly. I knew about cosecant, I knew about cotangent, I knew about secant, but I didn't do them. So we went into like just basic calling off, like just basic. You need to know this, know this, know this. We're doing this. This is how you do it, and then that's it. And then you moved on to the next thing. So he did that for So he did that for cos, sine, and tan. So this is where. So normally when you're doing something for the first time, you wanna remember and revise, get into it. That's not what happened. So he did sine, cos, and tan. So I'm trying to get back into the groove for these three, and at the same time, I'm also learning cosecant, cotangent, and cosine. Cosecant, cosecant, secant, and cotangent, which I'm learning about. Now, on top of that, there was hyperbolic sine, hyperbolic cos, hyperbolic tan, hyperbolic cosecant, hyperbolic secant, hyperbolic cotangent. 6 from out of nowhere that I've not seen before. So, subjects from the future here, I just realized I missed a few things in this video. So we did sine, cos, tan, cotangent, still trips me up. Anyway, sine, cos, tan, cot, secant, cosecant. We did that, as I said in the video, right? And then we did the inverses of all of them. So the inverse of sine, inverse of cos, inverse of tan, inverse of cosecant, inverse of, yeah, you get the deal. Inverse of that, as well as the inverse of the hyperbolic sine. And I think somewhere there was the logarithmic something of them as well. On top of all these functions, so trig was hectic. We had the normal functions, I think there were 6 of them. Then we had the hyperbolic, and then we had the logarithmic as well. Yeah, that's just a small part of what's in engineering. But anyway, back to the video. That was in 1 week, and then we had a test in like maybe 3 weeks from then on, with other stuff in between. Yeah. Matrices was, I skipped 1 class in matrices, and I think it was 2. One was for class rep, one was for soccer trials. And I only got matrices after I wrote the second makeup test. Yeah, because we had 1 test. This was last year, so we had 1 test, and then we had another sort of makeup test to replace. I only got matrices after I did the second test. First test, I didn't understand matrices at all. But now, seeing that I did them, matrices are really fun. Like, I'd just randomly be using matrices for partial fractions now, which is the thing. For just partial fractions, I'd just be using matrices, because matrices are pretty fun. And I think some ways that whenever I use linear, now that I know about linears, I think matrices are just really fun to use. Another thing that happened with conversions as well was I started doing what was it? It was okay, but either open circuit or short circuit. I started doing that, right? And then it was okay. It was one of the calculations I started doing over and over and over. Okay, it was getting actually pretty fun. So things like that, where it's like the fun that I had in maths coming back, where I had the challenge of thinking about the mental and creating mental models, and you could pinpoint which mental models, and then doing that at the first aid. I was in the zone. Like mentally, I was in the zone. So with matrices, it's like that. With conversions, it started to become like that. It started to become fun. That's another. That comes to the main engineering. One thing I see though with courses and the way they're done. So that's okay. So that's me, right? Before I get to that, so that's me, and why I went into engineering, and then how my experience of engineering has been. How many minutes am I on? Actually, 47. Wow. But I need the watch hours, and hopefully you're not clicked off by now, because I didn't need the watch hours. Now, where was I? Probably gonna be a lot of cutting, but 47. Wow. Okay. Engineering. Okay, so courses, that's where I was. So that was my reason for going into, wait, 47. Oh, half past. Okay. So courses, why do people, so that was my reason for going into courses, why I picked engineering and how my experience of engineering has been. But I have a with me, engineering wasn't about passing the course, but about the understanding of the things that I'm doing and actually getting the skill and the mastery of it. Because I've seen with me with myself that I tend to do things to mastery. Mastery becomes my goal because mastery in just things that I'm interested in becomes my goal. It gets me running, it gets me obsessed, excited. It's just mastery, right? So I got into this degree with that. But I've seen, or from hearing and seeing, I've picked up that people go into courses for the status that the course has, the money that the course provides, the money from the opportunities of doing that course. We can work with those two for now. I've seen people go into the course for that, and then I think another one was complaining that the course is hard when I think it's like I've seen these memes where it's like the course that you chose to scare you is now scaring you. And so memes like that. So I've seen that. And with engineering, it's also like about, with most people I've seen, it's about passing the module instead of, so passing I suppose is important because you probably make a video on systems and what. Yeah, but it's a system and then it's still a system. I don't know if the system works. You guys can comment down below on what you think, but it's a system, right? And in the system, regardless of whether you understand or not, you need to pass to move on to. There's no point understanding but then still failing. So you still need to win in the system. So it's part of the system, and it's more about then the passing instead of the understanding of the skill. And on that case, then I have seen that, but it's not really something I can speak on much because I don't actually know or have a proper idea on what it is about to actually have a proper say on it. But if you're feeling like that, what I would say is perhaps maybe check what it means for you. Like, why are you doing? Why are you thinking of doing what you're doing? And I'm just realizing now that this video is for would be helpful to people who are now going into looking at their options and things like that. Only now once I'm into the video. But once you're in that point, if you're there, you're still looking at reasons to go to varsity, checking options. The main thing that you need to check is what does it mean for you? Which is something my father likes to say, but my father used to say it a lot. But the main thing is really what does it mean for you? On my side, what I like to say is that Yeah, basically sum it up is what does it mean for you? Like for you, what do you see? And how do you see it playing out? Not actually playing out, but what are the actual reasons, values? What are actual reasons? What are the actual reasons that you want to do these things? Are you actually interested about? Are you actually interested in it? Is it actually something? What are the actual? What are actual core motivations for doing this thing? So in this case, the varsity. Talking about varsity, right? What are the actual reasons for choosing to do this degree that you want? Is it for status? Is it for the money that comes with it? Is it for this? Regardless of whatever option you come, I'm not, I'm not here to say which one is bad, which one is good. But I'm saying that whatever option you're gonna go, it's gonna have its own consequences and its own hurdles and things like that. And you're gonna become whatever options you pick. So make sure that you pick the one that's gonna come. That you're gonna understand the hurdles and obstacles that come with it, but still you're gonna accept those ones because you chose to do that. You chose to well suffer in this thing. You chose your suffering. So because you chose your suffering, it becomes more enjoyable because you know it's leading you to a place where you wanna go. Instead of instead of having to suffer, leading to know to a place that's in the opposite direction or not in direction completely. Suppose that is the opposite direction, but in the opposite direction of where you actually wanna go, or it's not in your field. It's not where you wanna go at all. It doesn't give you any joy, any value, anything like that. So understand yourself first. My father used to say there aren't any formulas to life. I'd say there is one formula to life or formula to success. And that one is that you need to know yourself. Knowing yourself gets you. That's the first step. I'm still finding the others, but the first step that anyone can use, whoever they are, whoever they are, is that know yourself. By knowing yourself, that means your personality. What is your personality like? Who is the, I suppose, let's not actually make it what is your personality like, because I've seen most people actually don't like sitting within themselves. So it's not what is your personality like, but who is the core person, who is the core you. As for who are you, what do I mean by that is strip away all the social media. I say social media because it's distracting. Strip away all of that. Strip away every single person in the world. Now you're going internally, you're going inside, and I dig deep in all those insecurities, anxieties. Where do they come from? Where do they come from? Is your head? I don't even want to say if you could do. I don't even want to say if you're alone in the world and you could do whatever you want. What would you do? Because that actually isn't still who you are as the core person. Like it's that it's gonna be hard to understand if you haven't hasn't gone deep into yourself, but it's deeper than even if you're the only person on earth. What would you be doing? It's much deeper than that. So that core person where your energy comes from. I think energy is the best way. And then not your energy comes from. So where your emotional energy comes from, where your energy to do things, that unlimited energy to do things where that gets you up in the morning, that deep energy level. It's hard to explain if you don't understand what I'm talking about, but that core you. Who is that core you? That who is that core you? Understand that core you, the weaknesses, the flaws, the personality traits, what the personality trait likes, what the trait is into, and what the personality trait is not into. It's a personality, but if you're still digging deep into it, I wouldn't call it a personality because often I've seen when I was diving deep, I saw that personality is often a facade or a false that you tend to try to put up. Instead, the best way to go about it is to not put any boxes, because personality becomes a box that you try to always subconsciously what can I say? Subconsciously it becomes your standard that you're looking for, and your brain always consistently tries to push to hit that mark. Now, if you remove, say, personality is not you, right? So if you're trying to look, I say personality is not you, but then once you've seen you, then that personality sort of falls away, and then that you becomes your personality, which is, I guess, what you could say maybe it's a bit confusing, but if you don't understand what I mean, then the best thing I would say is forget about personality and sorry, forget about personality and think about who are you. Like, don't, like, this is not me asking you who are you. No, it's you. It's like you asking you who are you. Do that enough times, and you'll be in the right direction. You'll move in the direction. Ask yourself, who are you? And I just realized that's actually a very, very deep philosophical question. But it will get you in the right direction to ask yourself, who are you? And that is my success. That is my first rule for becoming a success in life. Because success is different for everyone. It isn't just the material possessions. Everyone likes to say that it's material possessions. Perhaps it's also because of they don't want to do the things. Maybe it's an excuse for not wanting to do the things that get you there. I mean, it could be an option. As kind of the way I see it used, but even if it's not, doesn't really matter. But success isn't. There's success in material possessions. There's success in emotional, in health, in life, in as humans, we aren't just one. We're made up of many different parts of personality and life. And in that, it should be understandable that many of us see success in many different ways. And not all of us chase the material success, because you might find one part of that person, the social part, is much more stronger than the part that is material possession based. Maybe they see the greed. I'm an ambitious type of person, so I want that top 1%. And then I also want to be in the top 1%. And then not say anything about it, but just the people in the top 1% know that I'm the top. That's just how I am, but not everyone is like that. So it's understandable that there are many different definitions of successes. Now, in those definitions, just because there are many parts of you, I think of it as there's you, right? So there are many different parts of you, right? So you have one, I don't have enough cards. So there are many different parts of you. They say all of these are different parts of who you are, right? So these are all different parts of who you are. They say the material side, ambitious side, desire, social, anger. Yeah, you get the point. There are many different sides of you, right? But then in all of this, there's still that one. All of this are just like sub parts of the main thing where the true substance is. So you have all of this stemming from this. Now, when you're starting off the journey, it's probably this, right? And probably many other ones on top of this. So when you're starting, you're from there. You're from here, right? You're seeing these many, many different things. Then you're going to get to these sub parts. Now, in those sub parts, you're going to see. Now, you're going to try to get to these main parts. Now, even when you get here, you're going to need to dig deep and see. who you are and but my main point is that even in the subparts are just because you have many different parts of who you are, that doesn't mean that there isn't a one singular thing. It doesn't mean that doesn't come from a singular source. So even if you were to boil down to something like maybe three different major parts of who you are, that still doesn't mean there isn't a one thing under who that core you that governs everything. That still doesn't mean there isn't a one thing, one self or soul that governs everything else, where everything is from. Now, find that core you. Now, find that core you and who you are, and that will be my first rule to finding success. As from then on, you see, you start to see what you can focus on, and then you have to see what you can focus on. Now, by seeing what you can focus on, everything else you just say no to because it's not as important as this one thing. The one thing is that important, that is the one thing that you say yes to. Now, by saying yes to this thing, you're saying no to many other different things. And that's my first rule to success in life. Comment down below on what you think. Is that actually a proper rule? It's just my first rule. I'd say if anyone were to apply it, they'd easily be able to, because it's not about what type of success, but then if it's not the type of success that's meaningful to you, that's how you know it. Now, if you already know that, and then you already know that most of what you're actually looking for is inside, it's another part of the battle. I could go on for hours, I just realized, but that's how engineering was for me. Please share because I need the watch hours, like for the YouTube algorithm. I still need to do the title and the thumbnail, but I think I already have the title. I just need to do the thumbnail, none of that. But this is a new format to Subworks. Subworks coming in. I am writing my test on Saturday. Finish that. Once I finish that, I am probably going to start drilling in some things, videos in. That's the plan. Subworks is now a business properly. That's what it officially was intended to be with the newsletter, but Subworks is here now, officially with the business, and we'll just see where it goes. Besides that, it is, let's see, it is 049. It is 0049 on the 21st of June. This will probably be uploaded today. Study video part 3 is coming out maybe 2 days from now, maybe 3. And then, yeah, see you in the next one.